Hi everyone, welcome to Deqa Nur Show. I'm Deqa Nur. Many of you watch our program, especially this program is mostly for sharing community development, all sort of development. And today I have a wonderful guest all the way from my York. I know one of you go, I go to York University, and I have, it is so my pleasure to have one of my professors, previous professors. Welcome to the Deqa Nur Show, Professor Caroline Hossein. I know you're gonna talk about your work at York and around the community development, but welcome to the show.
Thank you, Deqa. It's a real pleasure to be on the Deqa Nur Show.
I know, thank you, welcome. I know you, but there's a lot of the viewers that don't know you and the great work that you do, not only at York, being a professor, but around the city and around the world. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and the work you do. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Deqa. It's a real pleasure to be on this kind of format, sharing the work that I'm doing. And I have to say thank you to you for making knowledge so accessible through a platform that you can easily reach lots and lots of people. So thank you for making this kind of outreach and sharing knowledge so possible. So I thank you, and I thank your viewers for tuning in. My name is Caroline Hossein. As Deqa mentioned, I'm a professor at York University in Toronto, Canada, and I teach in a program called Business and Society. And often people ask me, well, what is it exactly? Is it a business program? Is it a social program? Well, we think about markets more critically, and that means that we're actually wondering, why are there so many gaps? How come there are so many failures? How can you make economics much more inclusive of certain groups of people who often feel left out? And you can see currently with this COVID pandemic that we're dealing with, that actually a lot of the people who often feel every day left out are now the people that we depend on so desperately to get our very basics, right? Like food and transport, frontliners in the hospitals and what have you. So what we do in the Business and Society program is think about the economy much more than this for-profit type of capitalist institution, but the ways in which people participate in the economy through other ways, through nonprofits, through what your show talks about, community economic development programs, through cooperatives, credit unions, social enterprises, a whole host of other ways that we can do business that really is putting people first. So I work in this field called the social and solidarity economy, where I'm thinking about the ways in which people of African descent, whether it be in Africa or here in the diaspora, what are the ways that they build up business, and how do they interact in society while they're doing that?
Wow, that is amazing, really, because especially, taking those business and society, especially doing that course with you in my first year at York. Many of you who know me, I'm a mom, so I'm a mature student as well. But it is so crucial and it's so important because it really did change my life. I mean, you could have the life skills, but to add that academia to really give you a guidance. It really gave me a guidance for the work that I doing today. So I
and
just
it
want
kind
to
of
say thank you.
validates the work that you and many people know to be true, right? As a form of knowledge. So because you come to the university, it doesn't mean that systems that you're familiar with don't have a place in this place that we acquire knowledge. And I think that that's what the social economy is about. It's trying to ensure that people who are often left out of more mainstream systems have a place to engage and to really think through the ways we can work with one another in a more equitable and just way, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go to our second question, I just want to say, especially learning in your class about Rascas. I was so Rasca. That
Yes.
whole topic was just something new to me, because that's something we do outside of academia. But to really see that in academia was so amazing. Before we go to the second question,
so
just
that's
quickly
a good point. See,
yeah.
I forgot to mention that the system that you just mentioned, and I totally forgot, as that's an alternative economic form of banking, right? That people all over the world, including in places like Toronto, New York, and Miami, these developed countries, people are participating in these alternative economies like Rasca, rotating savings credit associations. You may know them as Hagbad, Ayutu, Partner, or Susu banks, but these are very valid forms of economic cooperation that people engage in, right?
I'm so glad you said that, because when I say Rasca, many people don't know. Many of, especially I think the East African community and from the diaspora Africans, we call it what you just said, Ayuto and Hagbet. I actually learned Hagbet from your class, although it was from the East African community, especially in the East Africa. But I know Ayuto. The day you said Ayuto, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe my professor is talking about Ayuto. This is amazing. Thank you so much for the work you do at York. And coming to our second question, there is a program that you're working on, and that's why we're here today for that program. Can you please tell us what is the community economics for the youth everywhere? So what is this program, and how is it going to be developed? And please share with us.
Yeah, thank you, Deqa. So, with the onset of this pandemic, COVID-19, it makes all of us rethink, the ways in which we do work and approach work. And as an academic, this forced isolation and ways of how do you reach out to other people without retreating in a space that you feel so disconnected, you start to rethink the kinds of projects you thought were priorities, if you know what I mean. When you're thinking about people losing their lives and our system is trying to catch up and to figure out ways to assist and help those who are sick. And so part of what I'm doing in the social economy thinks about these ideas of cooperation. How do groups of people who've been alienated for many reasons or feel like they are under crisis, have feelings of exclusion, how do they cope? How do they come together in times of need? And now with the onset of COVID-19, this has made my work in many ways much more pressing. But I felt that the ways in which I was working was detached from young people and youth. I teach the course that you mentioned, which is an introduction first year at the university. So students often, the majority of them, come in from high school into a first year course, and they're very big first year courses with hundreds of people. And by the end of the year, students often come up to me, thank you, we loved your course, but why didn't I know about this before? And I always, and after years of teaching this course, I started realizing, well, I'm not a high school teacher. I'm not really in the education sector. I look at social economics. But I thought to myself, how can I do programming in a way that can reach out to youth? And I had in my mind this spring summer, to start piloting a number of in-person teaching classes to youth in the Toronto area. Well, now with all the restrictions in terms of mobility and people self-isolating, it doesn't make such a project feasible anymore, as you can see, right? So with some thinking and talking to my networks, I started realizing, I'm active on Twitter, I started realizing that there might be people who are interested in speaking to a professor on the topic of the social and solidarity economy in a weekly basis, about topics that have some meaning to young people. So I started sending out a link through a platform called GroupMe, which is called, for now, the name isn't great, it's called Community Economies for Youth Everywhere. What I'm hoping in that is that once we have a core group of people, young people, what we'll do is vote on a name change. That might be the first order of business as a collective, to think about a new name. And what I'll do, and I'm still thinking this through, either on real time or not, it'll be a space, kind of like the Zoom space that you have here for your speakers, for your show, where people can come at a time that's convenient to them and watch a show. Well, this is more of a chat. Members of this chat group, who are young people primarily, will come to this space, and I will animate it through texting, through uploading videos and PowerPoints and links that speak to a variety of topics. So you might know some of these topics, right? Like, so what is the social economy? What has the social economy meant in, say, a place like Canada or the US, or like in other countries like, I don't know, Sudan, Somalia, Jamaica, number of other countries where I've worked. What does the social economy look like there? Who is a social entrepreneur? Are there examples of some that youth know about? So I want this to be a two-way sort of learning across the different people who are part of the group, but in a way that I can facilitate it so that they get access to information, particularly at a time where they are at home, and many of them are using devices, not everyone, but a lot of them are using devices. Is there a way that I can connect the work that I do in the academy to some of the stuff that they're doing at the high school level that could be relevant?
Wow, that's really amazing. To be honest,
I
with
hope
you,
that
because
they join. And I feel like, well, I'm terrible at trying to reach out to youth because I'm this stale academic in the university, and I'm used to speaking to older segments of the youth population, so they're in their mid to late 20s. But how do I get young people who are like from 15 to 25? Like, how do I get that access to that age group? Because the circles I run in aren't reaching that. So I'm speaking to the moms of those kids. You know what I mean? So how do I get the info? And whoever listens to their mom, the mom's like, oh, I have this professor friend who's starting this chat group. Why don't you join it? I mean, if my mother said that to me, I'd probably run for the hills. But I'm wondering if there's some of you out there that may want your youth or your young person in your life to do, say, maybe tell them 20 minutes a day, visit this, chat group. There's no obligation, there's no real homework for you, but it's a way of you thinking through critically thinking through what is an economy, what are ways to humanize it, do you know of examples in your community? It might be an eye-awakening chat group in that it may start youth to think about business in different ways that you already know, Deqa, because you got out there, you do community work, you see the various ways that people engage with the economy, right? To make sure that everyone has some sort of voice. But there's lots of youth who, you know, go to school, hang out with their friends, and then are on their devices or social media, but I'm not sure they're tapping into these kinds of ways that they can be part of a movement to bring positive social change. And I think, why don't we speak to them at an earlier age? Why do we wait until they get to university?
You know, you really summed it up when you just said that, why do we have to wait people to come to university? We can, you know, create that platform of academia and sharing and knowledge and information in a more very productive platform. And that is what you're trying to produce for these young individuals. I think that's fantastic. I know many of the, especially in academia, always talk about that. And I think joining with the community, I think, you know, you mentioned so many of starting from not just, you know, learning, but also connecting and collaboration with community development is so important, especially with the business and society, and not only you teaching it, but I know you do use these things that you teach in your everyday life. So I just wanted to say thank you for that work, and many of the viewers that are watching us are going to be so lucky to have this information. I know many of them probably are looking for something like this for their youth, for themselves, some of the young ones that are watching us. I just wanted to close it with our last question, which is, if anybody any of the viewers that are watching, anybody that comes across this video, how could they get involved in the program? How could they reach out to you, like an email or the group that you talked about? How can they find that link? And also, you know, what are the age groups as well, right? So what are the group that need to, so the contacts and the information that they need to join?
Yeah, those are very practical questions that I'm thankful that you're here moderating this discussion, Deqa, because I probably would forget the point of why I'm here in so many ways. Okay, so everything you said is correct. I'm trying to make academia less alienating, less elitist in its orientation. What I'm trying to do is reach out to youth, whether you're at university or not. If you're not in university, great. If you live in Ghana or Jamaica or Toronto or Richmond Hill, a suburb of Toronto, join in. I'm trying to figure out a time zone that will work so that I can do a lot of this in real time. The 7th of April at 10 Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on April 7th is sort of like a soft launch date that I'm trying to work with. Trying to get the buzz out there so that some youth, I think we have like a small group of, I don't know, 12 or 15 people who've signed up. I'd like to see by April 7th a little larger number. And I assume that people will join in as they like, and that's great because there's a thread on a chat group, right? And so they can catch up and join in, and then we can have some conversation going. So the best way, because there is a link, so what I can do, Deqa, if you have a platform, I'll send you the most current invitation But the best way to reach out is if your viewers have Twitter, they can find my profile very easily. You can find any professor very easily. I'm hoping that when you post this talk up, you can have my name and my email and maybe my Twitter handle, which is Caroline Hossein. So Twitter is at Caroline, Caroline Hossein. I know it's a handful. If you look for me at York University under Social Sciences, Caroline Hossein, you'll be able to locate me. My email's there if you really get lost. But the chat group is on Group Me. And if you get stuck, I have many links on my Twitter, which I do keep closed. But if people request and to join, I usually accept them if they look like they're serious. I'm really just having my Twitter closed to avoid trolling, if you know what I mean. So, but I'm really open that way. Facebook is another way to find me, but really email and Twitter might be the best ways for them to reach and to find the link. So it is GroupMe. I'm trying to keep it so parents, particularly if they're concerned about safety for their children and what have you, I feel like GroupMe has a pretty good platform. You have to have the link in order to be able to participate. So I'm trying to do that kind of diligence. So hopefully that might entice people. Viewers can come directly to me because you have way too much work, Deqa. So if you can anyway spread the news on my email and my Twitter, Twitter might be the best. I'm happy to send people the link, particularly their youth who are interested. And you asked me about youth. Initially in my mind, I was thinking young people from the age of 15 to about 25. And I got some pushback from folks in Ghana who let me know that it should be even larger. So I really wanted to keep it like between, if someone's 14 and they want to join, I'm fine, but they should really have their parents' permission. But I am thinking 15 to about 25. In Ghana, some of them feel that the definition of youth is up until 35. And some of them are still considering themselves youth. So I'm not going to disqualify people from participating if they feel that they are still a part of the youth movement and they want to have access. I'd be open to it. But most of the people joining, I think, are ranging between 15 and 20, 25, that age group.
Well, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. And I just wanted to say for the viewers, believe me, what Professor Caroline Hossein teaches, it's something that any age, I know you're doing this work for the younger generation, but I think anybody could really find and maybe in contact with Professor Caroline Hossein and see if how could this knowledge facilitate your life, because Business and Society did actually help me with the work that I'm doing in community development, and hopefully and also hopefully in the future I'm planning to expand that international. So, but again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for sharing this new program that you're working on, and I just wanted to say keep up the wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you, Deqa, and it was a real pleasure speaking to you and to meet your viewers this way. I think it's a fantastic and innovative show that you have here. It takes a lot of courage to get out on the internet and really bring news to groups of people in a very democratic way, which is great. It's not so exclusive, if you know what I mean. You can just reach all kinds of people and have a conversation about things that really matter.
Especially in this difficult time with COVID-19 and what's going on. You know, I mean, I know, you know, being a professor, it's not easy, you know, especially being a mom and a family, but really finding that extra time to create these programs that could reach out to, you know, thousands or millions of people. It is, I just wanted to say thank you, because we always talk about alternative, and what an alternative way of finding a way to really pass time with what's happening and hopefully continue with these new developments.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, everybody. You're watching Deqa Nur Show. I'm Deqa Nur. Thank you, and see you next time.
Pleasure. Bye-bye.